Hi, and welcome to the Voices of Change podcast, where I, your host, Paige Hill, talk about the ins and outs of self-care, communication, and all things social work. So today we're going to be diving into the VIA Character Strengths Assessment, which is an online test and resource that analyzes one's top strengths and areas for growth. I myself did the test, and I'm going to walk you through my results so you can better analyze your own. So the top 3 strengths listed in my survey results are humor, hope, and judgment. Humor is described as liking to laugh, making jokes, and bringing light to the lives of others. Hope is described as expecting the best and being able to see the good in a bad situation. And finally, judgment is described as thinking things through from all angles and making decisions based on evidence instead of feelings. So first, we're going to analyze my top 3 strengths and see if I agree with the VIA Character Strength Test and can really identify them within myself and my own life. So for example, my first strength, humor, is a really large part of who I am. I constantly wish to brighten the days and lives of others, whether it be people I have close relationships with or I only interact with once. And specifically, this happens the most at my movie theater job, where I aim to make people's days brighter than they were before I interact with them. I'll often compliment or crack jokes to guests in order to do so. So my second strength, hope, is also very present in my life. I aim to see the world in a positive light, and even when I faced one of the most difficult times of my life, which was being an inpatient in the hospital following a traumatic event, I stayed positive. In this period, I reminded myself that with nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. In what felt like the lowest point of my life, I remember that I and the world were full of potential and that I could do whatever I wanted to reach my own happiness. And finally, my third top skill of judgment is reflected in how I treat others. And one example of this occurred in my life recently when I found out that my friend and coworker, who I considered to be a close friend, was talking about me behind my back. While at first I was really offended and defensive, I realized that something I had done must have upset or offended her in some way as well. Instead of being confrontational, I spoke to her in a mature manner and ensured to consider her feelings while also standing my ground. So next, we're going to look at our weaknesses and how they reflect in our lives, and also how our knowledge of them can help us in establishing a self-care plan, which we're going to do later in the episode. Okay, so the lowest strength on my list is forgiveness, which is described as accepting others' shortcomings and letting go when others make mistakes. The second lowest is perseverance, which is described as finishing what one starts, despite any obstacles or challenges. And finally, the third lowest is self-regulation, which is regulating which one feels and being disciplined. And I can see these strengths reflected in my life in different ways. In terms of forgiveness, I often find I hold grudges when people intentionally hurt or disrespect me. However, this does not benefit me or the other person and seems to make me more negative overall. To apply this to my self-care plan, I can look at my relationships and see if I hold any grudges or resentments that I'm not aware of. I can work on talking through these issues and forgiving others and myself for mistakes that have been made. And this will provide me with more mental clarity and peace. Looking at perseverance, I find that this is something I used to be a lot better at. However, over time, near the end of high school, I committed to too many things because I believed I'd be able to complete all of them. I overstretched myself and was unable to do everything I'd signed up for to the best of my ability. To apply this to my self-care plan, I can ensure that I do not make promises that are too difficult to actually apply and sustain to my own life. I can take small steps and not make every change all at once. By sticking to the plan, I will be able to redevelop my trust in my ability to stick to my commitments. And then finally, in terms of self-regulation, I often find it hard to focus and stay on task when doing difficult things. I've developed some habits that help me in this area, such as using the Pomodoro technique while doing homework, which is basically staying on task for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break. I also tend to work alone without music or television in the background in a clean workspace, which helps me to eliminate all distractions and ensure I stay focused on what is right in front of me. To apply these techniques to my self-care plan, I can use them in the school and work section, as this will help me to reach my academic and career goals. Next, we're going to think about our families, friends, communities, and the cultural groups we belong to and what their strengths are. And this is important to recognize, especially as a social service worker and a student. So looking at my own life, my family will always have each other's backs and will always be each other's biggest supporters. Specifically with my mom, she's always had my best interest in mind and supports me through every difficulty I face. She inspires me every day, and I work to be a support to others in the way that she supports me. Secondly, my friends also have many varying strengths, and one thing I look for when developing close relationships is how the people I surround myself with choose to live their lives. I'm friends with people who work hard, challenge themselves, and who hold themselves to a high standard, as these are traits that I highly value and things that I work for in my own life. It's important that one identifies these strengths, especially as a social service worker, because it can show you what kind of traits you look for in the people you choose to surround yourself with, and it also shows you the kinds of traits others value as well. By keeping myself in a circle of people who uplift me, I can gain inspiration from them to uplift myself and push myself in the same manner. This will ultimately lead to me becoming the best version of myself I can be, and therefore inspiring my clients to do the same thing. So next, we are going to develop a self-care plan. So here's how this will work. We have 3 categories: area of life, the self-care activity, and when we will add the activity into our routine. So first, in the area of life section, we have school and work. The activities I will add into this area of my life are staying organized with deadlines and coursework, as well as taking breaks and implementing rest. I will do this each day, as I will fill out my calendar and to-do list each morning when I wake up. I can ensure I take breaks each time I do homework by using things like the Pomodoro method. Next, in the physical and mental health section, I have to continue to go to the gym 5 days a week and do daily meditation after my workouts. Since I already have the habit of going into the gym instilled into my routine, it'll be easy to add a 10-minute meditation to the end of my workouts, as it's easier to develop habits when attaching them to another. And I go to the gym after waking up and getting ready each day. Third, we have family and relationships. For my self-care activity here, I can reflect on who I surround myself with and what they contribute to my life. I can also work to let go of past resentments or burdens and show my appreciation to the people in my life. I can do this while journaling, which is a later step in my self-care plan. And I will do this before bed each night. I can also show my appreciation through small, sporadic, and random actions, such as going to visit my grandparents more often and buying my mom flowers. Next, for community involvement, I wish to become involved in school activities and extracurriculars. I can do this by researching online and on social media about the programs and extracurriculars available at Centennial. I'll aim to attend these groups and events about once a week after my classes, if possible. Finally, I will journal to de-stress, plan, and maintain gratitude. I'll do this every day before bed and will write about any strong emotions, my day as a whole, or if I have something specific to express to the world. All right, we're almost done. So next we are going to select 3 of these categories and look at the potential factors and barriers that may interfere with us completing our self-care activity. So some barriers I may experience in trying to practice my school and work goals are that I often forget to fill out my calendar, I may become overwhelmed by work, and that I've tended to procrastinate when feeling overwhelmed. I can address this by ensuring I fill my weekly and monthly calendar in advance and by breaking large tasks into smaller steps so I do not become overwhelmed. Some barriers I may experience in family and relationships are that I tend to ruminate on small grievances, which may stop me from seeing the bigger picture and letting things go. Ensuring I stick to my self-care plan and journal will ensure that I do not lose sight of what is truly important in those relationships. And finally, a barrier I may experience in community involvement is that I may push researching clubs off to the wayside as I may get distracted by school and work and other responsibilities. However, I will ensure to do it as soon as possible so it does not become an afterthought, and I will also ask my academic advisor about student groups at our upcoming meeting. Okay, so one last thing. We're going to identify 2 of our strengths and how they will help us practice self-compassion and resilience if we cannot overcome those barriers. So 2 strengths in my profile that will help me practice self-compassion and resilience are hope and judgment. By staying hopeful and thinking positive, I can remind myself that tomorrow is a new day, and that just because I may not have overcome the barriers today does not mean that I won't tomorrow. Judgment will help me because I will be able to ensure that I can analyze the entire situation and figure out what was in my control and what was out of my hands, and I can do something else tomorrow if the current plan is not working. So, that is just about everything we have to talk about today. I hope you all enjoyed and gained something from this, and make sure to stay tuned for the next episode.